All right, I'm excited today. I have Mark Papadas, founder of I Am for Kids, and been having a good time getting to know Mark, going through some of his websites and his content, and taking a good look at his mission. And we're exciting time, so I'm just going to kind of throw it up there early. We're going to talk about it later, but Mark is in a round of fundraising. He is looking to get his vision and his product out in the world. To help kids, to help grow the confidence. And I'm real excited to spend a little bit of time with Mark today and to get to know the man behind the mission and to share this vision a little bit and to hear your story of where you started, where you came from, and where you're heading. Is that cool, Mark?
That's fantastic. I'm happy to do it. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming today. And guys, like, this is the second call we had set up with Mark. I was sick the other day, so he's been generous enough to give us extra time. So Mark, I warned you I was going to do this. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and kind of the background story of what got you into this mission?
All right. So first off, like I said, my name is Mark Papadas, and I'm known as the Be Great guy because of my work bringing personal development to kids. So if you have to describe what I do in one sentence, I like to say, just imagine Tony Robbins meets Charlie Brown. Okay, and
Yep.
Our mission is to have the same level of impact on kids' emotional intelligence and personal development that the Muppets did for reading and for math. So that should give you a pretty clear picture of what we're looking to do and how we're looking to do it. So we're developing the I Am for Kids brand to take our content, and it's all based on real stories of real kids who have gone through our school program, which is already out in a number of schools. It's in 39 schools across 7 states, and the impact that it's made in those kids' lives, and sometimes even beyond that to their school, their community, and sometimes even beyond that. So.
Nice. You mentioned Tony there. Have you been on stage with Tony and Zig?
I haven't shared a stage with Tony, but I actually ran an office of Tony's back in the mid. I still don't know what we call that decade from 0 to 10. Okay, the zeros, the aughts, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
But I ran an office of Tony's in Chicago when I was up there. But I have been fortunate enough to share stages with Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, a number of other giants in the professional development industry.
Yeah, so you've got quite a bit of legends that you've hung out with. That's kind of cool. And you're taking this concept and you're kind of weeding out the stuff that's for adults and tailoring it towards the things that are going to help kids develop and to kind of get self-confidence, kind of grow. Who thinks of that? Like, who thought of that? Was this your original idea, or did like Zig or Tony say to you, you know what, we should teach this in every high school in the world?
No, this was me, and it was, I would say it to me it borders on a religious experience. So I literally had an epiphany in 2009. So like I said, I've been a glutton for personal development my entire life. Okay, so I can't tell you the last novel that I read, but I'm always either reading, watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, etc., to always try to either improve myself or some things that I can then take and funnel through to the kids. And I've been teaching this to my kids literally since they were in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't mind, I said we'll take a little bit of time for the story of the epiphany because I get goosebumps every time.
Yeah, no, I want to hear this. This background story is always kind of like more interesting than sometimes like the success story. It's like, what led up to it?
So like I've been teaching this stuff to my kids, and I was always coaching my kids' youth sports programs. Now I never had the time because I was traveling so much to be the head coach, but I was always an assistant coach. And rarely did a season go by where a parent at the end of the season wouldn't come up and say, like, what did you do with Tommy? He's just different. He just seems a little bit more confident. I was kind of like, that's just what I do, kind of thing, right?
My natural God-given skill.
Exactly. So what wound up happening was this particular time was my son was playing youth football. At the end of the season, a bunch of the coaches got together at a local establishment just for a little camaraderie, just to share a few beers. And this particular night, one of my son's coaches came over and he just started going off on this positive rant about my son, about what a great kid he was. He was coachable, and he's a natural leader. And he's like, you might not know this, but I actually let him call the defenses, and he was the defensive coordinator. So they're like, Pappy, what do you want to do? So he said, it's like, anytime I get a chance to get little Pappy on my team, because we didn't have first names. I was Big Pappy, he was Little Pappy. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And I'm going to have him on my team. And he started saying all these great things. And then I did something that we all do, but we never admit to, is while he was talking, I kind of mentally checked out of the conversation. And I remember asking myself, I was like, wouldn't it be great if everybody could have these conversations about their kids?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what could I do about that? And then I realized he was still talking. And I kind of, I shook it off and I re-engaged in the conversation.
Yeah.
But I know that was the spark for what happened later that night. And so, like, after the night ended, went home and I got in bed, and I was in that stage of sleep, before you hit REM, where you're kind of awake, but you're in dream world. And it was literally just like,
Yeah, you're in and out of your body.
Exactly. And it was literally just like, boom, it just came to me. It's like, hey, dummy, you know this stuff. Because I've been working with adults, so-called adults, right, for over a decade as a sales trainer and a personal development coach.
Mm-hmm.
So you know this stuff. All you have to do is put it into a format that will engage the kids and will help them. And it was literally like in the movies, the light shining through the window, and it just started to download into my head. And unlike those times where we've had those great ideas when you're in bed, and it's like, I'll write them down when I get up in the morning. And in the morning, you remember you had something, but you have no clue what it was. I was so energized. I mean, I don't know if you can see the goosebumps on my camera. It happens every time I tell this story. I was so energized. I just got up, I went downstairs and got out a legal pad, and I just started writing. And I said, it just kept downloading into my head in terms of, what was going to be engaging to them. What's the main age group that how are we going to get to the kids? All that kind of stuff. So I was writing. And about 6-7 hours later, my now ex-wife, but she came downstairs and she's kind of like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's not done yet.
Yeah. I can't lose it now.
Yeah. So I just kept writing it. And about 80% of what I Am for Kids has become today came from that night.
That one night in 2009.
Yeah, exactly. And we basically, that was the night that I decided that I was going to shut down my adult business. And that was the night that I realized what my mission was on this earth. And so I was like, I fulfilled the sales training contracts and stuff like that I had. But then from that point forward, it was all about developing the program and getting it out there. We started a nonprofit back in 2010 that lasted for about 6 years. And that's where the school program came about. So if you were to see the school program, the characters, you can tell they're the same characters, but they look nothing like what the characters look like now, because we had animation students at some local schools doing them.
Yep.
But all of the teachers and administrators that we brought the program to were saying, it's like, don't wait for perfection. We need this content out here now.
Yeah.
Get it out there.
Yeah, the mission will lead itself.
Yeah. So, and then we did that till about basically until COVID. And then we decided that our vision just wasn't, our vision just wasn't big enough, is basically what it came down to. So we decided to shut down the not-for-profit, because there was limitations of what we could do and how we could do it. And I said, we're launching the brand. So this is what's going to take everything here global. And we've manipulated the concept behind the business to make it scalable so that we can go international as soon as we can.
Okay. That's there's so much to have fun with there. What was it about COVID that said, you know what, this not-for-profit thing isn't working? Kind of like not Elon, but Sam is saying, look, obviously, this not-for-profit is working. He's thinking to kind of go to his for-profit model. What was it for you? Like, what was it? Yeah, no, what was it?
So it was, to a certain extent, it was a combination of things, and to a certain extent, COVID was the last straw. Okay, so we were headquartered up in Illinois at the time, And I don't know how much you or your audience follow the financial status of the different states, but back in the late, whatever that decade is, in the beginning, in the teens, the early teens, Illinois was ranked 50th or 51st. And yes, I know there's only 50 states. Hence the joke, in terms of their financial stability. Okay. There were times where they weren't making.
Like right behind Panama.
Exactly. Yeah. They weren't even making at certain times like payments into the state employees' pension funds and stuff like that. It was a cluster, what they're financially for the state. It's gotten a little bit better, but it still is not good. They may be up to 49th kind of thing, but I still think they're probably at number 50. So a lot of our funding was coming from state grants that we just weren't receiving. So we had to kind of scale things back, had to go out and, get a JOB kind of thing, that kind of, and then when COVID hit, it was just like, you know what, there's a better way of doing this. And a bunch of us had some time on our hands to actually dedicate more to what we should have been focused on the whole time. And that's when we decided, like, you know what, let's start over, basically. So I like to say we're a startup that has history. So we launched the for-profit entity basically in Q4 of last year. So we're less than a year old.
Oh, congrats. Good for you. That's exciting. And coming in October, you have this fundraising stage. Let's jump into that a little bit, right? Because I don't know how much I should or shouldn't share. Obviously, none of this is financial advice, right? This are two great guys having some fun here, and I do want to kind of I'd like to see you get some funding and have some fun with that. So good missions deserve it. But tell us about this fundraising system.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with how business fundraising works, so this isn't a donation, okay? We're not talking about, it's not the nonprofit type of a thing, right? So we're in the part of the project where it is called your angel funding. It's pre-seed. So we're not established. We don't have 5 years of revenue behind us, that kind of stuff. So this is where you have the ability to make multiple times on your investment, because you're getting in at the ground floor, and when it goes, and you get in your seed round, and when you go public, those are the people. It's like, yeah, I got into Apple when they were out of Steve Jobs' garage, kind of stuff. So that's where we are, and that's one of the pitch lines that I use when I talk to people. It's like, imagine if you had invested in the Muppets when they were first created. So there's a similar opportunity that's in front of you now. So to quote Eminem, will you capture it or just let it slip? Okay. So what we're doing is we're looking for those more institutional investors who are going to be putting in, $50,000, $100,000, but through there's a platform that's called WeFunder, which is legal crowd funding for equity in a company. So people can actually get started with us for as little as $100. Obviously, the more you put in, the higher your return is going to be once we get that next round of funding, once a TV show hits, which we haven't really talked about yet. But once the brand gets fully launched, this is going to take off like wildfire. And we've already got people, I said, internationally, who are saying, like, when you're ready, we're ready to promote you over here.
Awesome. So it's kind of one of those things in my world. It's like, this is a big gamble, but possible huge return, a lot of fun. And yeah, you're not giving your money away. Good chance for some money come back. Good chance to lose it all, but you're helping a good project, right? For the kids. Come on. So tell me a little bit more what's going on. Cause I've seen a lot of different stuff you have essentially a mission to bring to schools at a cheap or reduced cost or free cost. You have a family programs, you have this TV system planned up. Is the whole channel you're going to have, or is it essentially a product, just like a show?
So it's a brand. That's probably the best way of putting it. So once again, I like to use the Muppets because we're basically stealing their business model. To be brutally honest with you, okay? So like anywhere you see a Muppet, you'll be able to see an I Am for Kids character. So we're talking in terms of the TV show. Let's back up. Sorry. The school program, I said that's already out there. So our first thing once we get funded is we're going to redo that to bring everything up to date so that all of the characters look the same, whether you're going to see them in your school, whether you're going to see them on TV, whether you're going to see them on a backpack. Okay. So that is already in existence. That is the history that our startup brings to it and the results that we got from them.
Mm.
From there, that is, for lack of a better term, that's our kind of like our loss leader. We want every kid to go through this, and we will give the program to any public school that asks for it. Okay. Back in the day, we used to have to send them out media. We had to send them DVDs and workbooks and stuff like that. Now that can all be digital. So that's why we don't need to charge for it, because we just want as many kids to have the core of what we're talking about. And then if they're getting that in school, of course, they're going to want to watch the TV show when it's on TV.
Yep.
It just makes perfect sense. So like I said,
Yeah, my kids never get tired of watching Bluey.
Right. There's that, and there's a lot of people, especially parents, don't recognize the psychology behind that in terms of that's rewatching those shows and those movies over and over and over again. It really helps their psychological development because that's part of where they get their certainty. They're able to predict that certain things are going to happen because they know that they have happened in that sequence in the past. You want to screw up one of your kids? Get a episode of Bluey that's custom made to where when one thing happens and then all of a sudden it goes off in this direction,
they're gonna totally go, weird tangent.
Whoa! What the heck just happened? That's not right, kind of thing. Okay.
Yep.
So there's a reason why that is. Blue's Clues is a perfect example. When that first came out, right? It was the same episode every time that it was on PBS. Yep. Every day for a week, it was the exact same episode. There wasn't followed by another episode of Blue's Clues. Okay. So again, there's reason why they do some of those things. Okay. So the TV show is a big piece. What is going to make us so different is that we are offering live family coaching that builds upon what they're learning in the school program, what they're going to be learning on the TV show, so that you can actually implement it as a family. So it's not just for the kids. It's going to help the family's communication. It's going to help the parents be literally better versions of themselves while helping the kids grow. So everybody, it's literally that rising tide, raising all the boats, not just within the family, but within the community that we're building.
So they can have those little peppy moments. So the parents can have those little peppy moments.
Yeah.
Awesome. And if you guys coming in late, the little peppy moment is where Papa Peppy used to be assistant coaching and bringing in, and anytime he wasn't around, the head coach would bring in his son to help get involved and to play and to lead the team in defense. And they were just kind of bragging about him one day after the was it after a game or was it just kind of after the season?
This was after the season.
Okay, so after the season, they're just bragging on it. So great experience. Every dad should have this kind of moment where he's hearing the people bragging about his sons. So that's the little peppy moment.
Yeah.
What's the core of the program? I was going through your content on your website, and I guess there's 10 like big steps to it, or 10 phases, 10 processes. Can you tell us a little bit about the system, kind of at a high level?
So the core of what we are all about, and once again, this is true of adults or kids, it is all about a person's I am statement. Okay, because how you finish the thought I am ... literally determines the quality and the direction of your life. The problem is that most people, kids or adults, have never given that any conscious thought. Okay? And if you haven't given it any conscious thought, the loudest voices that are in your orbits have dictated that for you. They've imprinted upon you what that is. Okay? So you said you have an I am statement, whether you're aware of it or not. So for example, when I was working with the so-called grown-ups, I had a program that I did that was a day-long program. It was called I Am, the Power of Your True Identity. And it's the same 5 steps in developing your I am statement, whether you're a kid or an adult. It's obviously just different how you teach it. Okay. So to give you an idea, the first step is you get just given a blank sheet of paper that just says I am on the top of it. And then you're asked to finish that thought. Now, when I did it with adults, it doesn't matter whether you're kids or adults, hands go up. It's like, how do you want me to answer this? What are you looking for? It's like, there's no right or wrong answer. Just answer it however you think you should. Over 80% of the time with the adults, they put either their name and or their occupation.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay? So neither of those really has anything to do with who you are as a human being, the standards that you set for yourself and hold yourself and others to, all that kind of stuff. One is a label that you were given by your parents when you were born, and the other is how you make a living. And not everybody is fortunate enough to make a living at something that they love and are passionate about. Right?
Yep.
What was scary was when we did it in the pilot classrooms for the kids program. But what wasn't surprising was that most of the kids answered with a one-word answer. Okay, that's how kids answer. Like, hey, how was school today? Good.
Yeah. It's like, I am good. I am blue.
Yeah, exactly. It was just kind of that was expected. But what was scary was that over 50% of the time, that one-word answer was a negative trait or characteristic. With the three most popular being I am fat, I am stupid, or I'm ugly.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Okay. So that's where we're like, wow, we knew there was a problem, but we didn't realize it was this big. Okay. So that's where we decided, okay, we really need to go pedal to metal. We need to go full force. We need to get this out here because this has to change. Okay. And we know that that's not just in the US, but it does seem to be, from what we've been able to ascertain through other research, that it is worse in the U.S. than it is in most of the foreign countries that we've been talking to, like in Europe, for example, and in Asia.
That's so interesting. Now, is there a difference between if you have them write it or if you have them say it, or you haven't even considered it?
So there's a reason why we have people write it, and that has to do with when you write it. First off, you're using your physiology. Okay, so that's a big part of it. You're also seeing it when you write it, but in your brain, you also hear yourself say it as you're writing it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it has a bigger impact, and that it's one thing when you're writing that initial identity that you weren't necessarily aware of, but it has the biggest impact is when we get to the point where you're going through the process and you come to what is your, I don't want to call it your final identity, because that's the great thing about this is that if you start when you're 7 years old, you're going to adapt it throughout the rest of your life.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's not that it never changes. It's not static, but when you get to what your final one is for now, that's when it has the biggest impact, is because you're using all of those senses, and it literally starts to have an impact on the mind-body connection. And then there's the reiteration of that for the next 3 or 4 weeks. So like, for example, in the school program, what happens is once they do it, they run through it the first time. Every time they come and they enter the classroom. So you come into school in the morning, the first thing they do after the schools who still do the Pledge of Allegiance, they open up their I am book and they read out loud their I am statement. Okay, close it back up, they put it in the desk. For the schools who still have recess, they go out for recess, they come back into the classroom, open it up, they read it.
Yep.
Go for lunch, come back, read it. Leave for gym class, come back, read it. Okay, so you're getting that repetition to where the neuroplastic connections in the brain, they just keep building, kind of like muscle. They just keep building bigger, stronger, bigger,
Yep.
stronger, bigger, stronger, till it gets to the point where after about a month or so, you don't have to do that every single time because it's built that strong. They literally have become that person. So now, basically, when you come in for the first thing in the morning, you read it, and now you're ready to go and attack the day. And the reason why it's so important to do this in the schools is because now kids are going to they're going to feel better about themselves, about who they are, about making sound decisions. And where did that happen? That happened in school. So now they're more excited about being in school because they associate being in school with feeling better about who they are.
Yep. All of a sudden, they don't have as many headaches, about going to school on Monday or Wednesday. The tension starts building away. They've built the whole statement essentially themselves with the support of the teacher. And it's really like them, not their parents, or, kind of filter through some of those inner voices.
Yeah, we don't teach them what to think. We teach them how to think. So it's all about, okay, you started off here. Well, why not bigger and better?
Yep.
Why not bigger and better than that? Okay. So it's like, imagine as bigger and better as you can think. and that's what we're going for. So that's who you are now. Because one of the things that I get asked to speak at a number of different corporations about is believe that every child is born, for lack of a better term, perfect. In other words, they're born with all of the traits and characteristics that they need to be successful in life. And it's the adults around them as they're growing up who, for lack of a better term, kind of beat those things out of them. Okay, it's like the best example that I use in my corporate talk is there's three things that if you go back to now as an adult that you did as a child, that you'll be unstoppable and your business will grow like crazy. Okay, so the first one is persistence.
Okay. Yep.
It's like, when was the last time that you saw a kid quit trying to walk?
Oh, almost never. Almost never.
It doesn't happen, right? They keep trying.
And I'm laughing because my kid last year was on his bike, drove straight into a wall.
Okay.
Put his brakes on, but clobbered himself on the wall. Stands up after crying for a second, takes off his helmet, and goes to do it again. And we're like, why did you take off the helmet? He's like, I learned that I broke my helmet, and that was the problem. And he is about to do it again. Obviously, we stopped that one. But the kids, the way they think sometimes and the way they go after something and how they kind of learn from experience is special.
Yeah, it not only learning things, but they don't take no or defeat as an answer, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Dad, will you buy me this? No. Okay, how about now? How about now? Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Changing the approach, change the words.
Yeah, they're just persistent, right? The other part of it, or the next part of it is imagination. Okay, we've got nothing on kids when it comes to being creative in terms of how to use different things. There's a reason why kids oftentimes would rather play with the box that the gift came in than the gift that came in the box.
Yep.
Okay, and it's usually because the gift has a use, it has a purpose, right? You can use it for this or that. I said, but the box, especially depending on the size, it can be anything. It could be a house, it could be a ship, it could be an airplane. You can cut it up and make other things out of it. You color it, etc. Right? Whereas that thing is just that thing, and it allows them to once again explore the parts of their mind that allows them to do those types of things. And I like to say is that they don't have to think out of the box because they haven't built the box in their brain to think out of. They're just to go wherever their thoughts take them. So.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. And if you don't have kids, it's exactly this. They have the box, and then when they start to get bored with that box, they will all of a sudden discover scissors, glue, and other things to build on top of that. And with toys, they're kind of like, okay, this toy is exactly like you say, it has a purpose. There's a way to use it. I have to wait for my parents to get distracted before I set it on fire. So in front of you, they'll have more fun with the box.
Yeah.
Alternate uses of a toy.
Exactly. Just think of Sid from Toy Story.
I used to watch when my 20 years ago. I used to watch Sid the Science Kid with my oldest son.
Okay.
And yeah, he always had adventures. The how much of this program is currently available, and how much of it so obviously you had the full thing set up before, but now are you in a stage of rebuilding, rebranding it, building the avatars? What's the current process where you're at?
So I guess it's about halfway through. So in other words, like I said, schools can go to our website, to I am for kids, I am the number 4 kids.com, and they can sign up to get the program. What we're going to do is we're not prepared to send it to them as is, because like I said, we want to have it, but once we do, they will be getting this for free so that they can start to do that right now. We are already offering our online coaching program. So go to that same website and you can actually sign up for what we call the I Am for Kids Family Pack. And because we are in the stage that we are in, we're doing something that I wouldn't say so much as unique, but some people are saying it's a little crazy, is that the people who sign up for it now, instead of getting access to that family pack for one time, is that they can come and take it as many times as they want for as long as we're in business, for the lifetime of the company. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So we're allowing people to, so take, we're putting extra whipped cream and cherries and stuff like that on the top of his kind of thing. Okay. But we are doing the coaching now. So, and we've got a lot of testimonials, a lot of people who love what we're doing, because it's like I said, it's been proven through either my personally doing it before or through the school program. Okay. As far as the other parts of it, so we have our sizzle reel for the TV show is done.
Oh, congrats.
We are actually pitching it. Yeah, we're pitching that to different networks. We've already submitted it to PBS Kids. So we're just waiting to hear what they have to say about that. It's a process. So we should find out by the end of the year whether they're interested in moving forward with it, or whether not. I don't see why they wouldn't be. One of my advisors has some connections through Netflix. So we're putting together our package, et cetera, so that when we are ready to do that, that we can, because I've envisioned this, I've seen the future. And I see this either as a Netflix original or an Apple original show. I've visioned both. See, the big screen when you log into either one of those, where it's boom, I Am for Kids TV right there, kind of thing. Or our working title, which I don't know if they would want to use, but the working title that I have for it is Power to the Pupils.
Oh, that's cute.
Okay. And it is trademarked, so so you always got to protect your IP. For those of you who are out there, you got to protect your IP.
So I cannot take it. You do. You got to have fun with that.
Yeah. So we're doing that. We actually are about to sign an agreement with a video game developer, because we want to be able to take, once again, what's taught on the TV show, and be able to have that go and be able to engage the kids beyond that. And so that isn't signed yet, but we're beyond the information gathering phase and in more of the negotiation phase of that. And I was surprised, because that is much more difficult than the TV show. Because with the TV show, first off, it's based on real stories. So all we're doing is adapting the real stories of these kids and making it basic, for lack of a better term. You record it once and it is what it is. With the video games, you have to have, okay, if this, then this. And then for each one of those, if this, then this, if this, then this, if this, then that. It's a matrix of choices that you have to account for. And that's where finding a good video game developer, where you can give them guidance, but I don't have to decide what each one of those things is. I just kind of give them the broad, like, these are the characters, right? This is the avatar, like you said. How would they respond, this, and then this character and this character come together? Okay. How do me as the player, how do I decide? But then how does the character who's not the player decide and work with this person or not? So it's very cool, but it's a lot of hard work. So we're happy that we're doing that, and we think we found a really good company to do that with.
Congrats. It's that is a lot of hard work. Just building the whole branding by itself is hard. Never mind going through and creating the execution, the characters, how they interact, and the storylines, and then make it interactive for the kids. That's beautiful torture. So good job.
Yeah. Well, so it's fortunate, I see this as my life's mission, so I enjoy doing it. Where somebody might be like, oh God, I put in a half day today.
Do you ever get tired, like saying, like, I it's just not going right? Or are you just always like, yeah, I'm locking it in, I'm James Bond, and I'm just walking on water with it?
It invigorates me. Like, I work a lot of half days. So, like, I start around 8 in the morning and I end around 8 in the evening. So, that's half of the day. We take it from there,
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's a good way to do it too. Some of my clients, they're like, this writing content part, while I have passion, it's so hard. And yes, yeah, we can figure out the structure, but just to keep on it and to keep consistent is the hardest thing. And maybe kind of what you similar to what you say, where you have you plan half days. I bet sometimes those turn into 48 hours. I'm like, just take 10 minutes, plan 10 minutes, do it for 10 minutes and see how long you can go into it. What advice do you have? Obviously, you have a better system.
I wouldn't say so much a better system, but one that works for me. But I'd say based on what you just said, and this is getting more philosophical, but you know, time doesn't really exist. It's a man-made construct, and once you get started, you'll find that you'll get engrossed in what you're doing. It's like we've all had business meetings where somebody's like, okay, I only got 10 minutes. Okay. And then you start talking, and then it's 45 minutes later, and it's like, wow, where did the time go, kind of thing. And also, they were kind of using the time as a way to get you out of there, kind of thing. And they're like, no, I still got time. I'm enjoying this conversation. Let's keep going with this, kind of thing, right? So time is really nothing more than what you're doing in that moment and how you feel about it, or if you're in a group, how the group feels about it. Because we've all been in those meetings where it's like, God, will this ever end? Feels like
Right.
the clock is going in the other direction, kind of stuff. And then there's other times where, whether it be one-on-one in a group by yourself, where it says, boom, it's 4 hours later. Like, I forgot to eat dinner. And that's what happens to me is I guess to a certain extent, I have whatever the opposite of ADD would be, is when I'm focused.
Hyper attention, focus.
Yeah, the place could be on fire, and I would be like, okay, I'm a little sweaty, but okay, and then all of a sudden, like, okay.
Right, right. My feet are hot. Woo, woo. What's going on?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. I'm a developer. I kind of do that all the time. My wife will every once in a while come up to me and say, "Baby, it's 2 a.m. I messaged you 6 hours ago. Come on." And you don't argue with the wife at 2 a.m. Uh,
Not if you're smart. Yeah.
yeah, not if you're smart. No, no. I do have a little bit of internal clock where when I start to see the sun come up, I haul butt because then I know I'm in trouble.
Right.
So every once in a while, she's like, I knew you were going to do it. Aside from that, that's maybe how you know if you're in your right place or not. The what's so currently your guys building it. When I'm looking at the website, there's like three plans, and right now you guys are encouraging that family pack, or was it one of the others? Okay.
Yeah, so it's the family pack. That's our our base package. Okay, so it really gets people in, because to me that's the most important part, is developing that I am statement. That's really what that's all about. Okay, the bigger ones are for example, the next step up is basically it's a mastermind group of me and my coaches, along with all of the families who want to be involved in that. It's literally us helping. We don't claim to have every single answer. And there's going to be people out there who might take what we do and find a way to build upon it, and then can share that with the rest of the community. And again, that's going to raise everybody, every boat that's on that pond, right? And then the I Am for Kids Academy, that's all the things that we as adults, how many times have you ever heard somebody say, you're like, why didn't they teach me this in school? I'd be so much farther ahead than I am now. So it's all of those different types of things that will help make not just the kids, but the families as a whole just better, more well-rounded people. It's going to help them in their scholastic endeavors. It's going to help them in their businesses, et cetera. And we've already got commitments from world famous subject matter experts to come in and share how they got to where they're going, or how to do these particular things to help you be better. And that is really where we see the long term. We see that as 10 years from now being kind of like trying to think of some of the learning, like the Sylvan Learning Centers, or the different things that something that will be franchisable, to where people will open up an I Am for Kids Academy in their city or neighborhood, et cetera, and that would just go worldwide, because that's where, again, those like-minded kids and families can go and actually meet in person, because it's one thing to have a connection online, but it's a whole different thing when you're connecting and making friends with other people who are like in mind. And that's really where it comes down to, where we can get kids out of like making bad decisions like gangs, drugs, etc.
Hmm.
Because it's human nature to want to be a part of something that's bigger than just yourself. And that's why the identity piece is so big, because you tend to congregate with those people who are like you. So if you've decided who you are, you're going to find other people who have decided who they are and are similar. And then you guys will start bringing in more friends and more friends and more friends who are doing that. So you kind of come up with your own positive gang, for lack of a better term. Okay. And then when these outside negative factors start to come in, it's going to just seem so foreign and uncomfortable to those kids to want to go that way. You're going to like, no, thanks. I'm good over here.
Yeah, yeah, they already had that kind of defense built up through their own confidence and their own knowing of themselves. It's a big deal for kids, as it is for adults too. So probably maybe some of this stuff would be good for adults. I'm kind of laughing when I was going through the website and through some of your content. I'm like, yeah, it would be good for me too. And just even in our initial conversation together, you gave me some good wise words of wisdom in there, and I appreciate that. Um, so if we could kind of have some fun for a second, because a lot of my audience, entrepreneurs, founders, and you have obviously these 19, not 16 years of experience in from your startup, from your epic moment to about now. And there's been a lot of journey, a lot of water under that bridge. If you were going to do it over, right, and maybe maybe go not talk, maybe not so much about the not for profit to profit transition, right? I'm not sure if that's like a really epic story. It's kind of like it's more of a change of environment perhaps. But if somebody's looking to build a successful brand like this, right, could you share a few things that you've learned along the way that could help some people that are starting up their product, or their something that's based around content and this kind of industry? I don't want like specifically this, but I mean, if it's content and meditation, or stuff where it's built around characters and content and purpose rather than just like a utility, for example.
Yeah, so things are several pop into my mind, so hopefully I can remember all of the ones that just like, that. So, I would say number one is more about yourself, in terms of you have to really believe in what you're putting out there. And that if you don't truly believe with all of your heart and soul that whatever it is, whether it's your content, your product, whatever that is literally not going to help either improve or change somebody's life, then you have no business starting that business and trying to sell that.
Hmm.
Okay, so that would be number one, because if you have that belief, that's going to be that fire underneath you that's going to keep you going when the times get tough.
Hmm.
Secondly is you can't half-ass all in.
Hmm.
So people who have a plan B and a plan C rarely succeed on plan A, because they've always got that back here, right? When I got divorced, that's when this really came into, because this is something that my ex never really supported, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take what little I'm taking out of this,
It's a sign.
and I'm putting it all in here. Okay, so I said you can't half-ass all in. You go all in. You go all in. The other part is not to think small, right? Why not? A lot of the times I've had entrepreneurs. You kind of mentioned about the adults taking some out of it. I remember I was speaking at a conference in New York, maybe 2015-ish, 2016, and I was selling I sold some copies of my book while I was there. And the next day, one of the people who bought the book came up to me, and I won't use the language that he used because he was from New York, so it was a little colorful, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, but he had read the book from cover to cover overnight, and he said basically, hey, blank the kids. I'm going to use this with my employees. I can see how this is going to, help them to be better in their jobs and, be more, be a better team player within my company. And I'm like, exactly. Okay. So don't sell yourself short. And this is kind of where I was going back to about that persistence and that ingenuity about when you're a kid is don't limit where you think your product can go, or don't limit where you might be able to come up with different partnerships and collaborations that you can do to get into markets or groups that you never even thought of that your content would go to.
Mhm. Nice. Nice. Good shares. Good shares.
Thank you.
The some things that stood out to me while we were talking was where you started off with not so perfect animations to get the concept out there and to get kids learning. And it seems like that was an indicator of success to help you get going and to help you push forward and over time. And especially now where you're redefining it and you're growing, but you started off with college students, they're able to help you get your ideas going. That stood out a lot. So I don't think I think people shouldn't confuse um, not thinking small with thinking small also, being okay with small steps.
Yeah, you got to take the first step, and you can always improve it. So yeah, if you're going to wait for everything to be perfect, it never will be. But it can be perfect for now, and then that's when you can go out and build your team. That's the other thing is if you're going to try and do it alone, you're only going to go as far as you can,
Uh-huh.
right? And most people can't go very far by themselves because of they don't have skills or expertise in certain areas that you need. So go out and find people who want to be part of your team. But this is probably I would say, I should have mentioned this before when you're like, what was the biggest thing that I've learned? This was it, is if you have to beg somebody to be on your team, they don't belong on your team.
Yep.
Okay. You should, when you share your mission, you want to find the people. It's like, how can I help you? How can I be on your team? Because I was initially looking for people to be like on my board and all that kind of stuff. I was looking for names, for stature, etc. And I was basically pleading with people to come and lend their
Time, talent.
time, talent, but their credibility, if you will. Their name is like, oh well, if this person's involved, it must be great, kind of thing, right? And I found that most of the time they were like, hey, that is a great idea. And they wanted to be part of it so that they could say they were a part of it, as opposed to them being a part of it to actually make the mission succeed and get to where it needs to go.
Awesome. Takes a little bit of work to package your concept enough to where people can understand it, to show you for you to show your value quickly and to start drawing people out. And it takes a little practice. What have you done yourself to achieve that? Obviously, you have some experience in getting that message out there. What steps did you take to do that?
Well, I try to improve myself every single day. So over time, I've worked with several different mentors in terms of whether it be presentation skills, whether it be learning different parts of the business, the branding, et cetera. So I'm always looking to learn from the people who have been there. And I'm gonna see if I can remember a quote. David Meltzer, who is one of my advisors, see if I can remember it exactly. The fastest way to get to where you want to go is to find somebody who's already been there and get directions.
Uh-huh. Yep, it's a good one.
And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, why would you want to learn from trial and error when you don't need to?
Yep. Yep. Finding good mentor, you'll still do some trial and error. There's muscle memory you have to learn, but so nice to have somebody kind of guiding you through that, telling you where you're going to waste time or get hurt and how to kind of recover faster from those learning lessons. Love it. Love it. The what's I don't know if this question's too personal, but I'm kind of curious how you'll answer this. So a lot of content creators and a lot of my entrepreneurs, they they're not totally in love with creating content, right? Like they don't see themselves as being the one that is forever creating content. And a lot of them, while they like to kind of have some degree of role playing in there, want to hand that off to outsource that or to build a team that does that for them. What's your feeling around that? What's your advice on that? What's your experience on that?
So I'll start with the advice first, and that's to go with what works for you. So there are some people who just are not comfortable in front of a camera, right? They just come across as, yes, let me tell you about what and they're doing their brand harm kind of thing, okay? Then there's the other people who, kind of like the flip side of that is the people who just want to be on camera all the time, right? And that's more of a vanity type of thing. So there's a happy medium. So, for the time being, I want to be the main, my job is to be the main face and voice of this movement.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also, not a spring chicken anymore kind of thing. So I'm literally, when I'm building my team, I'm looking for people that I can say, okay, I can see 10 years from now that you will be the face like in this market, you will be the face in this market, and
Mm-hmm.
people who I think would be able to work together to again raise the tide. I am not I'm not Oz within my company. Okay,
Uh-huh.
I'm looking for people to we all collaborate and we all just work together. So like we find
Mm-hmm.
people who are great at what they do, ask them what they need from me, and let's roll, kind of thing. Okay,
Yep.
so that's the advice part of it. Um, how I do this, so like I have no problem, and I by nature I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
My skill set is not in how to create the content for the web. In other words,
Mm-hmm.
like the stuff that you see on social media and all the cuts back and forth. I, pardon my language, but I suck at that. you know,
Yeah, I'm not amazing at it either.
yeah, I tend to sit in front of the camera and provide great content, but it's not going to win any Academy Awards kind of stuff for how it's
Uh-huh.
put together. So that's one of the things that I'm looking for right now is I want somebody to help me, coach me, tell me how to take the same words and the same passion that I have and
Yep.
make it so that people will stop on them when it's on TikTok or on Instagram or on Facebook, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that is an art. That's something that people are great at, but they don't know what I know. So how can I find those people and collaborate with them to get there? And there was a third question there. So is the advice, how I
Mm-hmm.
handle it, and what was the
How
third
you
one
handle
here?
it. And how do you evolve it? So you kind of talked about it a little bit, right? So patching things together. You are from 8 a.m. to noon every day working on the content, on the systems, and on the business. You're working to outsource now with TikTok content creators, for example, or YouTube content creators to kind of get that virality going while you're working with them to create the content with your skill set. Um, so going a little further along that, and and I guess to step back a little bit, just a little tiny bit, is by practicing a little bit, you realize you're good at getting the message out to get communicating and to do that. So you found where you're good at, maybe through experience or just through sheer gut determination. But you start to realize there's components of this that if I work with other people, we can multiply it. So how do you continue along that path, I guess? And is there a next stage that you see coming onto that in your experience, or is there like some kind of magic formula that you found? And I always love asking for magic pills to find that content creator, to find those relationships.
I would say that I don't think there's a magic. Well, the magic formula for finding the relationships is to just keep being out there,
Mm-hmm.
and don't be afraid. Kind of like before about thinking big. don't be afraid to reach out to the people that you think are out of your league. You know, I've been fortunate enough to have that belief that not so much that nobody's out of my league, because I know that I haven't made my first billion yet. I get that. That's part of my I am statement, is that I am a billionaire whose accounts have yet to be fully funded. Okay, but I have the guts to approach those people, and you'll be surprised at how many of those people who have achieved want to help other people achieve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is true.
But if you don't ask them, they don't know.
Yep, yep. I think there's a combination of preparation, going to ask somebody like this, and your personal journey getting to that point when, even you could be like, I think it's worth $1 billion now. Right now, I think I'm a billionaire. Maybe you start off as like, I'm a multimillionaire in making. Maybe I am. I don't know. Right. I'm curious how your process goes. I think it's a beautiful thing. I realize that I have taken more time of yours than expected. And this call went fast. Let me ask you this. My questions. I love to ask them. Uh, Based off the kind of conversation we had here, if there was some kind of prototype that we could build or something that we could create that came to mind that would help you get to the next point, or from something that just came to mind that would help the world, what kind of prototype would that be? What would it like? What kind of project would that be that'd be fun to do?
So, like, the next thing that we're working on is our smart AI toys. And so they're going to be interactive AI toys in the shape of the characters, and they learn from their interactions with the kids. So I use Tickle Me Elmo as an example, right? You poke him in the belly, you squeeze his paw, but he does the same thing every time you do that. So after he falls down laughing a couple times and you laugh at it, within a week, that's off to the side kind of stuff. Whereas this literally grows, they become a friend, a digital virtual friend of the kid who's playing with it. And your experience with an Alex doll and my experience with an Alex doll are going to be completely different because we're different people. So that is something that I don't have anybody on my team currently who has that type of expertise. So that would be, I would say, the number one prototype that would help us get to the next level.
Okay, you know what? That would be a fun prototype. The ties in a little bit of manufacturing and some software and hardware. That's fun. That sounds like a fun one. All right, let me
Give that some thought. Yeah.
I may put a little article. No, I'm gonna try to think of a little LinkedIn article, put some of that together, have some fun with that if you don't mind. The next question, and I warn you, this is coming. It's a hard one, but it's based off this conversation where you probably had no idea where it's going to go. Can you recommend a book to our audience that could bring value and meaning?
The shameless plugger in me wants to say, well, go get my book, The 10 Secrets to Empower Kids and Awaken the Child in You, on Amazon.
I'll put that link in the reference. So there's that book.
So I had to get that in there, but that's not the one I'm going to say. There are several, but I think one of the ones that I find that when I recommend it to people that they get the most out of immediately is How to Make People Like You in 90 Seconds or Less. And for the life of me, I'm drawing a blank on the author, but like I said, it's the only book out there that's called that. It's a short read, and it's excellent in building rapport and getting people to open up to you like I said, very quickly, like in 90 seconds or less.
Nice. I'm searching for that's got to be on Audible.
I would think, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I'm going to put that in the book in that reference too. And if it's okay, I'd like to give you the word on the way out.
All right. Well, so I end every one of my interactions with kids and families when I work with them, and that is that when I'm done, I tell them to be great.
I love it. From the big great guy. Thank you,
Hence the
Mark.
name.
It was right. It's great. Be great. I love it. Thank you, Mark. It was a real pleasure, and I had a lot of fun in this conversation.
Me too. Thanks.